You can pass an entire day in this city without speaking to a single person, and nothing happens to you. No hunger, no danger, no consequence of any kind. That is the strangest fact about your life. And it is only about 300 generations old. 40,000 years ago, in the last cold centuries of the ice, a man crosses a river in bad light. He is not a fool, and he is not alone. Not yet. His people are strung out along the bank behind him, a dozen shapes moving through the gray, carrying hides and bundles and the fire they have kept alive for 3 days in a smoldering knot of bark. The water is higher than it looked. It takes his legs, and it takes his footing, and it carries him a long way down before it lets him go. He drags himself out onto a stony bar in the failing light, coughing, whole, and very cold. And here is the first thing worth understanding about him. He does not panic, and he does not run. He does the right thing, the thing his people taught him. He climbs to the highest ground he can find, and he sits and he watches the darkening valley for smoke, because he knows that somewhere out there they have already stopped walking. They are already calling his name. He knows this country. He knows where the water gathers and where the deer cross in the gray hour before dawn. He knows which of the pale roots along the bank will feed him and which will stop his heart before morning. He is not a helpless creature blinking at a hostile world. He is one of the most capable animals that has ever lived, standing in a landscape he has walked since he was a child. And he is going to die out here, not because he is weak, not because the wilderness is stronger than he is. He is going to die because of an absence, because of the empty space where other people used to be. And how quickly that space begins to fill with everything else. Morning comes, and there is no smoke. He walks the bank looking for the crossing, and the river has changed its mind about where it wants to be. The rain has taken the prints. The grass has stood back up. The thread that led back to his people is not broken. It is simply gone, erased by a world that has no opinion about whether he lives. So he begins the work, and the work is where it starts to come apart. Before the sun goes down again, he must find water he can drink, and shelter from the wind, and fuel enough to burn until morning. He must find something to eat. He must guard the stone blade at his hip, because without it he is nothing. He must watch the tree line. And somehow, in the middle of all of it, he must sleep. A camp does all of those things at once. 20 people moving in 20 directions, and every job is covered. One body does them in a line, one after another, and every hour he spends on one is an hour the others go undone. He can gather wood, or he can watch the dark. He can follow the river, or he can rest the ankle that is beginning to swell. He can sleep, or he can keep the fire. He cannot do both. He will never again do both. And there is one job he has lost that he does not even know he had. In Tanzania, researchers fitted a Hadza camp with motion trackers and watched them sleep for 20 nights. 20 nights, in a group of around 30 people sleeping in the open. Across all of it, the total time when every single person was asleep at once came to 18 minutes. Nobody was assigned the watch. Nobody volunteered. The old woke early and the young stayed late, and out of nothing but the ordinary difference between one body and another, the camp grew a wall of open eyes around itself. Every night, without ever deciding to. He has just walked out of that wall, and tonight, for the first time in his life, when he closes his eyes, the world will be entirely unwatched. The dark comes down, and it brings the oldest problem there is. There is an answer to the dark, and he is holding it. A hand drill. a scrap of dry tinder kept in a fold of hide against his chest, the knowledge of exactly how to spin and where to catch the ember and how to breathe it into life without killing it. He works for a long time with cold hands, and then, low against a rock, out of the wind there is fire. It changes everything. It pushes the cold back a little. It pushes the dark back further. Whatever is moving out there in the grass will not walk into the light of it, because nothing in this country has ever learned to. He should be safe now. He is not safe now. Because a fire is not a wall. A fire is a debt. It must be fed. It burns through what he gathered in an hour in less than an hour. And it does not care that he has not slept in 2 days. So he sits with his back to the stone, and he feeds it, stick by stick, and he watches the dark, and his eyes begin to close. This is the arithmetic that kills him. And it is so simple that it is almost gentle. He can sleep, or he can keep the fire. If he sleeps, the fire dies. And it dies slowly over an hour or two in the deepest part of the night, and by the time the cold wakes him, there is nothing left in the ash to build from. He will lie in the dark with no light and no warmth and no wall, listening. If he keeps the fire, he does not sleep. And the man who does not sleep begins, quietly, to stop being able to think in a camp. There is no arithmetic here at all. Somebody is always awake, somebody's eyes are already open when the fire gutters, and a hand reaches out of the dark and feeds it, and everyone else goes on dreaming and never knows that it happened. That is what a group is. Not company, not comfort. It is a fire that never goes out. On the 3rd day he is hungry. And hunger is a thing he has known all his life. Foraging has never been a matter of walking out and coming back full. It swings. A hunt succeeds and the camp eats for 4 days, and then it fails, and fails again, and the traps come up empty, and a stand of berries that was heavy last month has been stripped bare by birds. He has lived through all of that without ever once starving, and now he understands why. Among the Agta of the Philippines and the Bayaka of the Congo, researchers mapped who gives food to whom and found the same architecture in both. Households sit inside small clusters of 3 or 4 households. Those clusters sit inside the wider camp, and food moves through all of it, constantly in every direction. The point is not that anybody is generous. Sharing runs on obligation and reputation and old debts and somebody quietly noticing that your portion looks larger than it should. The point is the arithmetic underneath it. In a camp, when a man's day fails, he eats anyway, because somebody else's day succeeded. His failure disappears into the group and never reaches his body. Out here, nothing absorbs it. A day with no food is not a bad day, it is a subtraction. And it is followed by another one, and he is walking further and carrying less every time. And he must drink. So he stays near the river, which is the only sensible thing to do. And being sensible costs him, because he cannot range far from the water, and the ground near the water is picked over. And every day he must choose again between the food that is far and the water that is here. A group can be in 2 places at once. He cannot be anywhere but here. It is not a predator, in the end. It is almost never a predator. It is a stone. Somewhere on the 6th or 7th day, crossing a scree slope in poor light, he puts his weight down badly, and a sharp edge opens the sole of his foot. It is a small thing. He has had 100 of them. But he cannot stop walking, because the water is a mile away, and the wood is up the slope. And there is no one to fetch either, so the cut is opened again every morning and packed with dirt every afternoon, and by the fourth day the foot is hot and tight, and the swelling has climbed above the ankle. A body can fight this. A body fights it best lying still, warm, fed, and left alone. In a cave in northern Iraq lies a man we call Shanidar I. He is not one of us. He is a Neanderthal, a different kind of human, dead for some 50,000 years, and his bones are a catalogue of ruin. A crushing blow to the left side of his face, which probably took the sight from that eye. A withered right arm, broken and healed, and ending above the wrist. A damaged leg, a limp, a foot that had been fractured, and bone growths deep in both ear canals that would have left him close to death, and every single one of those injuries had healed. He lived for years like that, blind on one side, deaf, one-armed, limping, in a world that ate the slow. Scholars still argue about exactly how much help he needed, because a healed bone cannot tell us who carried his water, but it can tell us that somebody did. A group can carry a broken man for a decade. Alone, a cut on the foot is enough. By the second week, he has not had one unbroken night of sleep. He wakes at every sound, because every sound is now his to judge. A branch settles. Something moves in the scrub. And there is nobody to say the word that a camp says 100 times a night without ever thinking about it. Nothing. Go back to sleep. We should be careful here. We cannot climb inside the head of a man 40,000 years dead. And the studies we do have were done on prisoners and sailors and people in laboratories, not on skilled foragers alone in a country they have known since childhood. But the shape of what happens to isolated people is consistent enough to be worth saying out loud. Sleep breaks apart. The body stays half on guard even while it rests, and a mind that is exhausted and unsafe begins to read the world darker than it is, to see threat in the ordinary, and to find intention in the wind. And then, sometimes, it begins to fill the silence. People alone for long enough report the same things. Across every century we have written any of it down. A voice in the water, a figure at the edge of the eye that is gone when you turn. Conversations, out loud, with somebody who is not there. This is not weakness. And it is not madness. It is a social organ, doing what it was built to do, in the absence of the thing it was built for. The human brain is tuned for faces the way an ear is tuned for sound. Starve it long enough, and it does not simply go quiet. It starts making them. And here is the trap closing. He needs people. He needs them physically, the way he needs water. But the exhausted, watchful mind that is now keeping him alive is also the mind that reads every stranger as a threat. The medicine and the danger have begun to wear the same face. So he stops trying to survive. This is the turn. It is the whole point of him. And it is the thing that every lost human who ever made it home understood. He stops trying to be strong enough. He starts trying to be found. He climbs, because height is the only thing that makes one man visible in a country this size. He follows the river down, because water gathers everything. Animals, food, people, and when he has fuel enough, he builds his fire high and green and smoking. And he does not build it to keep warm. He builds it to be seen. And on the 9th day, or the 15th, he comes over a ridge, and there is smoke on the far side of the valley. And it is not his. Now understand what he is looking at. Because it is not simply a group of strangers. In southern Africa, archaeologists have traced beads cut from ostrich eggshell across the map by their chemistry. Beads found high in the mountains of Lesotho came from 300 kilometers away, and some of them perhaps from 1,000. And the same bead making the same sizes, the same shapes spread across a web that ran more than 3,000 kilometers between the east and the south of a continent. Those beads did not walk. They were given hand to hand, camp to camp, across generations and across distances that no single person ever traveled. The small band he was born into was never the edge of the human world. It was one knot in a very large net. So the strangers across the valley might speak a language that sounds like a cousin of his own. They might recognize the shape of the blade on his hip, or a bead at his throat, or the name of a woman who married out of his camp a decade ago. They might know someone who knows him, or they might kill him where he stands. Because from their side of the fire, he is a shape in the dusk, thin, armed, alone, and nobody is alone for a good reason. So he does the only thing there is to do. He stops at the edge of the light. He lays the stone blade on the ground. He opens his hands and shows them empty, and he waits to be seen. And he does not move. And nobody moves. And the fire cracks. And the silence goes on for a very long time, and that single frozen moment holds nearly the whole of what we are. The fear of the stranger, the need for the stranger, and no way to have the second without risking the first. We do not know what happened to him. We never will. He is a composite, assembled out of bones and beads and the patient work of people who study what the ground gives up, and the real man, whoever he was, dissolved a very long time ago. But we know exactly what was on the table. Maybe they drove him off. Maybe they killed him. Or maybe an old woman looked at him for a long moment across the fire and then shifted along the log and made a space and said nothing at all. He had a name. Somebody gave it to him. It lived in the mouths of about 30 people and nowhere else in the world, and when he walked into that river, it began quietly to disappear. That is what he lost on the far bank. Not company, not comfort. He lost the person who knew the far spring, the one who could close a wound, the one who remembered the winter route through the hills, the one who ate badly so that he could eat, and the one who happened to be awake in the blackest part of the night so that everyone else could sleep. We like to say that civilization began with walls and grain and laws cut into stone. But something came first, and it is older than all of it. Long before we built the first shelter, we were already sheltering inside each other. And you have never once left that shelter. Your food, your water, your language, your medicine, the road under your car. The fact that you can close your eyes tonight in a dark room and simply stop being vigilant. None of it is yours. It was handed to you by thousands of people you will never meet, and a great many who died before you were born. So when the room is too quiet, and the phone does not light up and something old and heavy turns over in your chest, that is not a flaw in you. That is a man on a riverbank 40,000 years ago, climbing a hill in the dark to look for smoke.